Good evening to you, Alex Zaprudsky. We're excited to be sharing both your story and your passion and, what you're working on. I met Alex in Israel because I was looking for someone to help me promote with the Western Wall collection on the ground in Jerusalem. And at the time, you were a new immigrant and you were in the process of getting your license as a tour guide. And I met you through Nefesh B'Nefesh. When, I basically contacted them and I said, I'm looking for somebody who's an English speaker who can help me with some marketing projects. And then we connected. And I don't know about you, but I thought it was a great connection. I really enjoyed working with you. I find you to be delightful and cooperative. And I think that all the qualities that you have that were helpful in us working together, you probably are applying to your business and to the benefits of your, tourist clients. What inspired you to leave the US and become a tour guide in Israel?
First of all, thank you for the nice words. I'm blushing over here. It's really nice. Yeah, it's a crazy story. What made me come to Israel? Like many American Jews, I did a program called Birthright Taglit, which is a program, an educational program funded also by the Israeli government and also by some philanthropists in the US to send Jewish young adults to Israel for a 10-day trip to see Israel and experience Israel with Israelis, see the entire country. And I have to say that I didn't actually enjoy the program. I felt like it was very, very, very fake, very through one kind of specific lens. And I wanted to come back and experience Israel by myself without a guide telling me what to do. So through a different program called Masa, I did a half-year internship program here in Israel where I could live here and work here like an Israeli. And at the end of that program, I was like, wow, this is great. Tel Aviv is amazing. It's beautiful, but it's not for me. I think that I'm going to stay in the US. But then Israel really I got the Israel bug and I started missing my friends that I'd made here. And I decided that I was going to come back to Israel and do a master's program, which I actually met you right after my master's program, during which I immigrated to Israel from Israel. It's a process called Aliyah. Because in Judaism, going to Jerusalem is to go up not only physically because you're going up a mountain to Jerusalem, but also spiritually because you're closer to God, the holy city. So when Jews immigrate to Israel, it's called making Aliyah. And that's how I ended up here in the first place, long story short.
Well, that's a great story. That, just has a lot of turns and a lot of, development. So that was great to know about you. What made you decide to move to Jerusalem? You said that you thought Tel Aviv was great, but it wasn't quite for you. So what about Jerusalem? And by the way, I just want to say that you're sitting on your balcony in Jerusalem
Yes.
right now. So tell us about more about what is it that you feel that connects you to? Makes you feel connected to Jerusalem and makes you feel like that's a home.
So when I was doing my half-year program here with Masa, I was living in Tel Aviv and I came to Jerusalem on a couple of trips with the program, and it was a place that was very distant to me. And again, when I came back to do my master's degree, I was living in Tel Aviv. I was studying in Tel Aviv University, and Jerusalem was like a great place for a day trip, but it was very, very foreign. And I even said to myself, you won't catch me dead living in Jerusalem, that holy city that's full of religious people. And then I decided to become a tour guide, and the English tour guide course was in Jerusalem. So I ended up moving to Jerusalem to do the course, not knowing anybody here. Is a completely foreign experience for me. And I really, the last 4 years I've been living in Jerusalem, I've really fallen in love with the city. I think that Jerusalem has so much diversity, so much history. It has so much culture and art and life that people don't even think about. They think of the old city walls, the 1 square kilometer of the old city, the historical part where all of the churches and the history happened. But it's actually a living, breathing city. It's Israel's largest city. 10% of the population lives here. And there's a lot of life here, a lot of culture, a lot of things that really drew me to this place. Plus the weather is amazing in Jerusalem. If you've been to Tel Aviv before, you know that it's humid during the summertime. You can leave your apartment and freshly showered and need to take a shower again 5 minutes later. Here in Jerusalem, we have nice dry summers, and it's beautiful. I'm sitting on my balcony in August, and not sweating. It's amazing.
That is amazing. And of course, yes, I have been to Jerusalem. I mostly travel to Jerusalem in the summers, of course, because of my daughter, having that time off. And I have spent many sweaty summers in Israel. And my mom actually lives in Jerusalem. So I definitely agree with you that, out of my, usual trips that last, on average a month to Israel in the summers, definitely being in Jerusalem, usually, typically, is just so much easier on your body than being, in the, like more humid parts of Israel. So I totally
Yeah.
do. And so what do you most enjoy working as a tour guide?
I love the connection with people. My whole life I was working in communications and marketing, and I really didn't find that kind of lifestyle suitable for me, sitting in front of a computer screen the whole day in an office. I really like the dynamic approach of being a tour guide where my office is outside. I work in all different weather conditions with meeting people all over the world. I love talking as well and telling stories and entertaining people. You might not know this about me actually, but when I was a kid, I was a professional clown. I started my own business when I was 13 years old to be a clown. And I was performing at kids' birthday parties, and that kind of developed into me working in the circus a bit later. I worked as a marketing coordinator in a circus. And I really like this kind of job where you are outside the box. You're doing things that aren't tying you down to a chair, where you're not at a desk all the time. And this kind of interaction and dynamic work environment is something that I really strive for in any type of job that I have. I'm not the typical 9-to-5 person, go to the office, drink my coffee, sit in front of the screen, and then go home and do it again tomorrow. I love that every day is a new challenge, a new group of people, new city. It's a really, not to overuse the word dynamic, it's a dynamic job though. It gives you a lot of variety.
It's definitely a dynamic job that suits a guy with a dynamic personality. Has this impacted other people's lives?
I definitely think so. I feel like for me as a tour guide, you kind of get desensitized to how awesome Jerusalem is. Like I walk around the city, it's my backyard, but people are spending their whole lives thinking about this place, Jerusalem, that they read about in the Bible, or they see on the news, or they heard about because of either Jesus or their Jewish connection or their Muslim connection. And they've waited their whole lives to come here to the city of Jerusalem. And this is their first time here. They see it with their eyes. And I'm the person that's like the ambassador of Jerusalem to them, that they get to experience this place. And for me, like watching people's reaction to the city walls as they approach the city, or walking around the city thinking, oh, this is where Jesus walked, oh, this is where the temple stood, all these kinds of things, and seeing how people react to this place that they've heard about all of their lives. Like I think about the first time that I ever saw the Western Wall. I studied in a Jewish day school when I was a kid. And like the concept of the Western Wall was like very abstract to me. Oh, you prayed to the Western Wall in like that direction. And then I saw it for the first time, like with my own eyes. And it was like a very special feeling to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely relate to that. I feel like I go to the Western Wall every time I visit my mom. And that's actually how I got the inspiration to create the Western Wall collection, because I used to always visit the Western Wall. And every time I visited it, even though it was year after year, it was just so meaningful. And I felt like there's so many people who can't travel to Israel or can't come to Israel as often as I do. And I wanted to give them something to capture that feeling that when they visited, to like have with them. So I can definitely understand how meaningful, Jerusalem is, having the luxury and the, being blessed enough to, to go visit it as much. And I agree with you. If my mom didn't live in Israel, I don't know if I would have, in Jerusalem, I don't know if I would have gone there as much and discovered as many wonderful things about it as I had the opportunity. So I very much relate to what you're saying, and I can definitely appreciate everything that you're sharing. I mean, it definitely makes a lot of sense. Have you learned anything new in the Jewish culture since you started working in tourism?
So I grew up in a pretty secular household. My dad is from the former Soviet Union, so religion wasn't such an important aspect of his upbringing. He considered himself culturally Jewish, but not religiously Jewish. And my mom's parents were Holocaust survivors. So my grandma survived Auschwitz, and my grandpa survived Mauthausen. And they came to the U.S. They were pretty religious before the war. And after the war, they became less so, but every weekend my mom went to synagogue in a pretty traditional household. And like I said, I went to a Jewish day school as a kid because my parents thought it was very important for me to grow up in a Jewish house. But as far as being religious is something that was completely foreign to me. And when I moved to Israel, it even became less of a focus because you look around to your left, to your right. The person sitting to your left is Jewish. The person sitting to your right is Jewish. I grew up in a place where I was the only Jew in my high school. So it was something that I kind of tried to, it was something that was weird and I didn't feel like comfortable with it. And here everybody is more or less like you, like whether they're more traditional, less traditional, more religious, less religious than you. Everybody, when you look around, has similar beliefs. In Jerusalem, it's a bit different, but in general, like the idea of living in a Jewish state, you look around and people are like you, especially in the Anglo community. There's so many new immigrants here that are from all different places around the world. And some of them are more religious than me, some are less, but it was definitely something that it opened my eyes to that I was the person that thought it was weird that people were religious because I was less religious now. And I'm exotic here from Iowa. And people are like, oh, I'm from New York. Where are you from? I'm from New Jersey. Oh, where are you from? I'm from Iowa. What? There's Jews in Iowa? So now I'm the very exotic person here. But as far as connection to Judaism, in the tour guide course, when I was studying, they give you intensive lessons on the different religions here in Israel. So Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And I learned everything from zero basically because my family was so non-traditional. I knew what Shabbat was and what the holidays were, but there's so many nuances in the Jewish religion that I had no idea what it was. And it was really opened my eyes to the different communities of Judaism that exist and the different beliefs and types and how Ashkenazi Jews are different from Sephardi Jews and what makes their synagogues different. And all these little nuances make it so interesting and such a rich kind of background of the Jewish religion.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So tell us if you have a favorite Jewish quote or word of wisdom that you like to share and why is it meaningful to you?
So I am kind of obsessed with Jerusalem. It's kind of become my favorite place in the world. After moving here, I really turned around my thoughts of Jerusalem, that I wouldn't be caught dead there to now I'm a huge advocate. In the Talmud, there's a quote that God gave 10 measures of beauty to the world and Jerusalem took 9 of them. And I think that there's so much truth in that because I look around my city and I see how gorgeous the architecture is, how diverse and beautiful the people are here, and how much history, how much culture there is that's in this 125 kilometer city that it's amazing to me.
Well, that's amazing. So Alex, can you share with us your information? How can people get in touch with you and, anything that you can tell us that we, can, expose people to you, to the work that you do? How can they contact you?
Absolutely.
Anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have a website. It's alexinisrael.com. And that's my professional website except for my tour guiding. And it gives you links to my Instagram page, to my Facebook page. And those are the best ways to contact me, alexinisrael.com.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It was such a pleasure. And I know that we haven't seen each other in several years, but you are quite as delightful as I remember you in person.
Thank you so much. You are as well.
Thank you, Alex. So I know we'll be in touch and we'll see each other in Jerusalem very soon.
Yes, hopefully sooner rather than later, with or without masks.
Exactly. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.